So Ross 8.3 is called Common Monosyllabic Words. Monosyllabic words. Let's make sure that we know what we mean by monosyllabic. What does the mono and monosyllabic mean?
One.
Okay, it means one. So a monosyllabic word is a word that has one syllable, right? Okay, good. The word we learned in order to acquire the endings for masculine, feminine, singular, and plural was the word Zeus, right? And Zeus means what? That's right. It means horse. Very good. And there's an interesting situation that happens with monosyllabic nouns, and it depends on a particular feature of the monosyllabic noun. Let me write down over here. Well, we'll move this real quickly here. Go down a little bit further, and then let's write another monosyllabic word. This is the word which you also know. Zeus means horse. Means what? Nation or people. Okay, we'll go ahead and just put nation here. Keep it simple. Okay, we have a situation in Hebrew where when we have monosyllabic nouns, we also have to ask ourselves, is the vowel changeable? Right? A monosyllabic noun has how many vowels in it?
One.
Exactly. If there's only one syllable, remember the nucleus or the core of the syllable is the vowel, right? You have as many syllables as you have vowels. So if you've got one syllable, you've only got one vowel. Is that vowel a changeable vowel? Zeus. Look at the word Zeus, horse. Is that a changeable vowel or not? No.
No.
Not at all, right? Absolutely not. No changeable vowel here. So when I add endings to it, like akamate, right? Nothing happens to that vowel. Everything's normal. The shurik stays put. This becomes mare. Or I can add eem to the end of this, right? And it becomes horses, susim. And the front part of this all still looks very normal. But when I have a monosyllabic noun, a noun that has a single syllable, and the vowel is changeable, there's actually something really odd and almost beautiful that happens. Okay? So I'm going to scratch you where you itch if you are a conspiracy theorist. You see that? I really should be doing this in black. Okay? Black helicopters. Okay, here we go. Yeah? Look at this. This is beautiful. Okay? There are little black helicopters flying around. Okay? You see that dot right here at the end of the line? That is a Dagesh. That's a Dagesh Forte. Okay? Little black Hebrew helicopters flying around looking for monosyllabic nouns with changeable vowels. Okay? And when it finds one, it is going to dangle a Dagesh Forte down and drop it inside the consonant of the noun when I add endings to it. Okay? So take a look at If I want to refer to peoples, right? And you've heard the word peoples in your Old Testament, right? Nations, peoples, and so forth. Well, what's it going to look like? Well, it's going to be like this. I got to use the non-final mem, right? This is my final mem, but I'm going to add eem, amim, okay? And what's going to happen here? my little black helicopter is going to drop a doggish forte right there inside the mem. That was the final consonant before the eem is added. So amim becomes the plural nations. Okay? Now, let's just think about the logic of this for a moment, okay? Here's the logic of it. If I did not add the doggish forte here, okay? So let me write this as if the black helicopters didn't exist. We know they do. The internet tells us so, that's right. So let's say I add eem to am. Am is written, by the way, this is what kind of a vowel? Is that long or short, the pathak? It's short, right? It's a short A vowel. So let's say I take am with my short A vowel, I add the eem to it. Tell me, is am open or closed? Am, the singular form. That's closed, right? It's closed. And it's tonic, isn't it? Okay, good. Now look at my third example here. Let's say all I do is add the eem ending. The mem, which was once closing the syllable up here, is now going to see the Kirik Yod vowel and say what? Let's start a new life together, right? I'm going to create a syllable marriage with you. And that would mean, if you had to divide the syllables, the tone is where now? It's at the end. This is pre-tonic, and it would be open, and Hebrew would have to do what with that? Yeah, old preacher sermons are long means open pre-tonic syllables require a long vowel. Is pathak long or short? Short. So if you left it like that, that wouldn't be allowable, right? You'd have to lengthen it in order to stay in keeping with our syllable rules. But that isn't in fact what happens. It's rather the doggish forte dropping in, hovering above the mem, dangled by the black helicopter, drops in when I add the eem. Now let's do the syllable division for that one. Okay, we know we have a doggish forte here, so I'm going to divide this way, right? And you're going to tell me that this syllable to the right of the doggish forte is what? Open or closed? It's always closed, right? And then the meme at the end is closed. Where's the tone?
At the end.
It's now at the end. So this is still closed with the doggish forte, but it's no longer tonic, it's pre-tonic, right? Now which rule does my syllable rule, which syllable rule kicks in here? It's closed and pre-tonic, which means it's closed and unaccented. The cuss rule tells me that I should have what kind of a vowel in a closed unaccented syllable? Short. And so here my pathak gets to stay pathak. It gets to stay short because it's closed and unaccented, okay? So this is what happens with monosyllabic nouns that have a changeable vowel. Now let's go back over here to susim. Notice that this is not a changeable vowel. So the black helicopters do not drop in a doggish forte here, right? But let's say they did. Let's say the Hebrew black helicopters didn't do this, but maybe Saudi Arabia is trying to create some misinformation. And they sent some black helicopters, and they drop a doggish forte in that monosyllabic noun.
ISIS.
Right there. Okay? Yeah, maybe ISIS does this. Now, what would be my syllable structure here? If I were going to divide this into syllables, I grab my doubling dot, right? And what would we say? This syllable here at the front is open or closed. It's closed. The tone is on the back end, right? It's closed and tonic. This is closed and pre-tonic. And I have a cuss rule that it would apparently have to follow. And the cuss rule requires closed unaccented syllables to have what kind of vowel? Short. What's the problem with converting that to a short vowel? Yeah, it's historically long, and historically long vowels are what? They are unchangeable. I can't change it. That's why the Saudis or ISIS would, not be able to do this, okay? So we can't drop that doggish forte in there. No Dagesh forte drops in there. Okay? You see how that works? So we can't do that. We have to leave the Dagesh forte out, and we will let the historically long vowel stay the way it is. So that's how I would have to divide it, right? Without the Dagesh forte, that would be open and pre-tonic. That would be closed and tonic. Now let me ask you, can shurik be in an open and pre-tonic syllable? Think about that. Yeah? OPSRL. Old preacher sermons are long. Open pre-tonic syllables require what? A long vowel? Is shurik long? Woo! Yes! It follows the rules, doesn't it? Okay. So, you're good. Now we can go home. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look at this other word that Ross gives you in your lesson, and it's the word chok. Chok. Okay? Look at chok. Is that a monosyllabic word? Yes. Is the vowel a changeable vowel? Yes. It's changeable, because the only ones that are not changeable are which ones? The historically long ones, and holum is a tone long, but not a historically long, right? So this is getting into that question that I think one or two of you were thinking about is, am I going to have these vowel changes if the vowel is any long vowel? And the issue is yes, as long as it's not a historically long vowel, I can see some vowel changes going on. So here I have hok, which means statute, okay? And I want to talk about statutes in the plural. What am I going to do? Well, hok is masculine. So I'm going to add which plural ending? Eam or oath? Going to add eam. And since it's monosyllabic with a changeable vowel, will my little Hebrew black helicopter drop a Dagesh forte in there? Yes. Will, right? So I'm going to get a Dagesh forte here. Now, here's the question. Once that Dagesh forte is in there, is this an open or a closed syllable at the front? It's going to be closed, right? We started with it being closed because hok, as a monosyllabic word, has a vowel with a consonant in the front and a consonant in the back, right? So that's closed and tonic. Here, though, when I add that Dagesh forte, it's closed but pre-tonic, right? Because the tone is over here on the end. What am I going to do about that? What kind of vowel is holum? Is that a long or a short vowel? It's long. But I have a cuss rule that tells me that closed and unaccented syllables have to be what? Short. So I'm going to see a vowel change here. The holum is going to shorten from a long vowel to a short vowel. And in this situation, the short vowel it's going to adopt is the kibbutz. So hok, when I make it plural, is going to become chukim. Chukim. Say that with me. Chukim. All right? So chukim. That's the form. Now, this is chapter 8. Chapter 9 is where you learn why a kibbutz might show up for this vowel. Okay? So for now, don't worry about this. Because you might have been thinking that a kametz ketuf would show up here, right? Okay? And I'll explain that in the next chapter. But just know for now, I had to get a short vowel. That was a non-negotiable. And it happens to pick the kibbutz here. Okay? Now, let's take a look at the word ra, which I mentioned a little earlier. So the word ra means evil or wicked. It's actually an adjective, but it can be used as a noun. So it could mean an evil one, an evil man, an evil person. Okay? So look at ra. Is that a monosyllabic word? Yes. Does it have a changeable vowel? Yes. So, Hebrew Black Helicopter wants to do what? Wants to drop a Dagesh forte in there, right? So if I want to talk about an evil woman, how do I change Ra, which is masculine singular? I add a comets hey. I get Ra'ah. Soon as I add an ending to this, I got to drop the Dagesh forte in there. Can I do that? Why not? I've got a guttural here, right? Gutturals don't take no Dagesh forte from anybody, not even from black helicopters, okay? They can see them coming. This is where the gangs are, better supplied than the military. So that always becomes a problem. Anyhow, so he's going to reject the Dagesh forte, right? No Dagesh forte. And as we've seen, when we were adding the article to words that start with a guttural, sometimes when we reject the Dagesh forte, the short vowel before it compensatorily lengthens. And so I can see that pathak, which is a short A, become a long A to make up for the fact that the Dagesh forte was rejected. Okay? So Ra becomes Ra'ah. So remember, we're starting with that. So this is a vowel change, right? But it is an understandable vowel change if you know some of the characteristics of the things that we've already learned in the Hebrew language, right? What you're seeing here, this is not, technically speaking, new information, because you already know about gutturals rejecting Dagesh forte, and you already know about the concept of compensatory lengthening. You're just taking old information and applying it to a new situation now, okay? And that's what we're going to be doing throughout my class, is I'll introduce you to things, we'll drill them down deep, and then we'll just apply them in new situations as we come to them. All right? So, let's start with Ra again. What if I want to talk about evil men? I add im to Ra, but because it's monosyllabic and changeable vowel, I want to add a Dagesh forte. Can't do that. I reject the Dagesh forte, and what happens to my short A before the Dagesh that gets rejected? It becomes kametz, a long A, compensatory lengthening. Okay, so Ra'im. And then, of course, Ra'ah, the feminine singular, becomes, I get rid of that and I add oath, right? But I'm going to still keep that long A there. Ra'oth. Ra'oth. The last word that Ross gives you here is the word for brother, which is ach. Okay? So it's spelled like that. Ach. You know what onomatopoeia is? Onomatopoeia is when you use a word that makes the sound of whatever it is, right? So if you watch the old Batman series back a long time ago, bang, pow, those are onomatopoeia words, okay? If you think about this isn't really true, but if you think about it, the Hebrew word for brother almost sounds like it could be onomatopoeia. You're a big brother, your little brother comes walking up to you and you go, ah! Right? Isn't that the sound you instinctively make when you see your little brother? Ah! Okay, so is brother. Okay? Brother. Now, I want to make it plural. Look at that. Is that a monosyllabic word? Is my vowel changeable?
Yes.
Yes. So when I want to say brothers and I add im, what's going to happen? Hebrew wants to drop a Dagesh forte in there. Can I do it? Why not? Because it's a guttural and it can't take Dagesh from anybody. So it's going to reject the Dagesh forte. Okay? So remember, with ayans and aleph, if it rejects Dagesh forte, I often get compensatory lengthening. Hays and chets, when I reject the Dagesh forte, I can't put the Dagesh forte in there, but instead of compensatorily lengthening, what often happens in Hebrew with those consonants is I get what's called implied doubling. What's that mean? That means I am going to act like I've put a Dagesh forte here, but I won't actually put it there. I'm going to pronounce this like it's got a Dagesh forte, even though it doesn't have one written there. This is called virtual or implied doubling. You remember that? So this is going to be spelled as if I had a Dagesh forte here, but I can't write it. So it's achim, achim, brothers, brothers, achim. Okay? I'm never going to ask you to divide this into syllables on a quiz or anything, but just realize that if I ever did ask you to do it, you have to treat the chet like it's doubled because it is virtually or implied to be doubled. All right? And it allows us to keep the syllable closed, and since it's unaccented, it needs what kind of a vowel? Short, right? And that's why I've got a pathak here. I need a short vowel because the chet is being pronounced as if it were doubled. Okay?